Homeless man refuses shelter every night. What he's protecting out there will break you. Every evening at exactly 6 p.m., social worker Lisa Chen would drive through the downtown area of Portland, checking on the homeless individuals who regularly slept in the same locations. It was part of her outreach program, offering shelter beds, hot meals, and connections to social services for anyone who needed help. But there was one man who puzzled and frustrated her more than any other. Thomas Murphy was a 62-year-old veteran who had been living on the streets for over 3 years. Every single night, Lisa would find him in the same spot, a narrow alley behind an abandoned warehouse, sitting on a piece of cardboard with his back against a brick wall. And every single night, she would offer him a bed at the downtown shelter, only to have him politely but firmly decline. "Mr. Murphy, it's going to be below freezing tonight," Lisa would say, her breath visible in the cold air. "The shelter has warm beds, hot food, and medical care if you need it. Why won't you come with me?" Thomas would always give the same response. "Thank you kindly, Miss Chen, but I can't leave tonight. Maybe another time." Lisa had been doing outreach work for 8 years, and she had never encountered someone so consistently resistant to help. Thomas wasn't mentally ill, wasn't addicted to drugs or alcohol, and wasn't hostile or paranoid like some of the individuals she worked with. He was polite, articulate, and clearly suffering from the harsh conditions of street life. Yet he refused every offer of assistance. What made Thomas's situation even more perplexing was that he seemed to be guarding something in the alley. Lisa had noticed that he never left his spot, even during the day. Other homeless individuals would move around the city, seeking food or shelter from the weather. But Thomas remained in that same location, as if he was protecting something precious. "I don't understand it," Lisa confided to her supervisor during their weekly meeting. "He's obviously intelligent and capable of making rational decisions, but he's choosing to freeze on the streets rather than accept help. There has to be something we're missing." Her supervisor, Janet Rodriguez, had been working with homeless populations for over 20 years. "Sometimes people have reasons that don't make sense to us, but make perfect sense to them. Have you tried asking him directly what's keeping him there?" Lisa had tried, but Thomas was evasive whenever she pressed for details. He would change the subject or simply say that he had responsibilities that prevented him from leaving. It was clear that whatever was keeping him in that alley was more important to him than his own comfort or safety. On this particular November evening, as Lisa approached Thomas's usual spot, she noticed something different. Thomas was there as always, but he seemed more agitated than usual. He kept looking over his shoulder toward the back of the alley, and his hands were shaking not just from the cold, but from what appeared to be anxiety. "Mr. Murphy, are you all right?" Lisa asked, approaching him slowly. "You seem upset tonight." Thomas looked up at her with worried eyes. "Miss Chen, I need to ask you something. If something happened to me, if I got sick or worse, would you promise to check on this alley? Would you make sure someone keeps watch?" Lisa felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. "Thomas, what are you protecting back there? What's so important that you won't leave even to save your own life?" Thomas was quiet for a long moment, clearly debating whether to trust her with his secret. Finally, he made a decision that would change everything Lisa thought she knew about homelessness, sacrifice, and the lengths people will go to protect those they love. "Miss Chen," Thomas said quietly, "would you like to meet my family?" Lisa followed Thomas deeper into the alley, her heart pounding with curiosity and concern. The narrow space was darker than she had realized, lit only by a distant streetlight that cast long shadows between the buildings. As they walked, Lisa began to hear sounds that she couldn't immediately identify, soft whimpering and rustling that seemed to come from somewhere ahead of them. "Thomas, what is that noise?" Lisa asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's what I've been protecting," Thomas replied, his voice filled with a tenderness that Lisa had never heard from him before. As they rounded a corner formed by a large dumpster, Lisa saw something that took her breath away. Huddled in a makeshift shelter constructed from cardboard, tarps, and old blankets was a mother dog with 4 small puppies. The mother was a German Shepherd mix, thin and obviously malnourished, but her eyes were alert and protective as she watched Thomas approach. "This is Bella," Thomas said softly, kneeling down beside the dog and gently stroking her head. "And these are her babies, Hope, Faith, Courage, and Little Bit." Lisa stared in amazement as the mother dog's tail wagged weakly at Thomas's touch, clearly recognizing him as a friend and protector. The puppies, who appeared to be about 6 weeks old, crawled over each other to get closer to Thomas, their tiny tails wagging with excitement. "Thomas," Lisa said, her voice thick with emotion, "how long have they been here?" "I found Bella about 3 months ago," Thomas explained, carefully picking up one of the puppies and cradling it against his chest. "She was pregnant and starving, hiding behind this dumpster. I could see that she was close to giving birth, and I knew she wouldn't survive on her own." Thomas told Lisa how he had used his limited resources to care for Bella during her pregnancy, sharing his food with her and creating a warm, safe space for her to give birth. When the puppies were born, Thomas had become their surrogate pack leader, protecting them from the dangers of street life. "I can't leave them," Thomas said simply. Bella trusts me to keep her babies safe. If I go to a shelter, what happens? To them, they'll freeze, or get sick, or be attacked by other animals. I'm all they have. Lisa felt tears streaming down her face as she understood the magnitude of Thomas's sacrifice. For 3 months, he had been choosing to live in harsh conditions rather than abandon a mother dog and her puppies who depended on him for survival. Thomas, why didn't you tell me about them before? There are animal shelters, rescue organizations that could help. Thomas's expression grew sad. I tried, Miss Chen. I called every animal shelter in the city. They're all full, and most of them said they would have to euthanize Bella and the puppies because there's no space. I couldn't let that happen. Lisa knelt down beside Thomas and gently petted Bella, who seemed to sense that this new human was a friend. The mother dog was clearly devoted to Thomas, looking to him for reassurance and protection. How do you feed them? Lisa asked, noticing that despite their circumstances, the dogs appeared to be in relatively good health. I spend whatever money I can get on dog food, Thomas explained. I eat at the soup kitchen when it's open, and I give most of my food to Bella. She needs the nutrition to produce milk for the puppies. Lisa realized that Thomas had been systematically sacrificing his own nutrition and comfort to care for these animals. His refusal to accept shelter wasn't stubbornness or mental illness. It was an act of profound love and responsibility. The puppies are getting bigger now, Thomas continued, and Bella is getting weaker. I don't know how much longer I can keep them safe out here. Winter is coming, and I'm scared that we won't all make it through. Lisa could see the fear and exhaustion in Thomas's eyes. He had been carrying the weight of responsibility for 5 lives, including his own, for months. The stress was clearly taking a toll on his physical and mental health. Thomas, let me help you, Lisa said firmly. There has to be a solution that keeps the dogs safe and gets you the help you need. Thomas looked at her with hope and desperation. You really think there's a way to save them? I don't just think it, Lisa replied with determination. I know it. We're going to find a way to help all of you. Lisa spent the rest of that evening in the alley with Thomas and the dogs, using her phone to make calls to every animal rescue organization, veterinary clinic, and no-kill shelter within a 100-mile radius. Most were full or unable to take a mother with puppies, but Lisa refused to give up. I have an idea, Lisa said after her 10th phone call. What if we could find foster homes for the puppies and a permanent home for Bella? That way, they'd all be safe and cared for, and you could finally get the help you need. Thomas looked skeptical. Who would want to foster puppies from the streets, and who would adopt a dog like Bella? You'd be surprised, Lisa replied. There are people who specialize in rescuing animals from difficult situations. Let me make some more calls. Lisa's persistence paid off when she reached Sarah Martinez, a veterinarian who ran a small rescue organization focused on helping homeless animals. Sarah was immediately interested in Thomas's situation and agreed to meet them the next morning. Dr. Martinez has experience with cases like this, Lisa explained to Thomas. She's helped other homeless individuals care for animals, and she has a network of foster families and potential adopters. That night, Lisa brought Thomas and the dogs warm blankets, food, and a portable heater that she had borrowed from the shelter. She also brought a camera to document the dog's condition and Thomas's makeshift shelter. I want to tell your story, Lisa explained as she took photos. People need to understand what you've been doing out here, the sacrifice you've been making. It might help us find homes for the dogs. Thomas was reluctant to have his story shared publicly. I don't want people to think I'm looking for sympathy or handouts. I just want to make sure Bella and her babies are safe. Thomas, what you've done is extraordinary, Lisa said firmly. You've put the needs of these animals above your own comfort and safety for months. That's not something to be ashamed of. That's something to be proud of. The next morning, Dr. Martinez arrived at the alley with a mobile veterinary unit and 2 volunteers from her rescue organization. She examined Bella and the puppies thoroughly, checking their health and assessing their needs. Considering their circumstances, they're in remarkably good condition, Dr. Martinez told Thomas. You've done an excellent job caring for them. Bella is underweight and needs medical attention, but the puppies are healthy and well. Dr. Martinez explained that she had already identified potential foster homes for 3 of the puppies and was working on finding placements for the 4th puppy in Bella. The process would take a few days to coordinate, but she was confident that all the dogs would be placed in loving homes. What about Thomas? Lisa asked. He's been living out here for months, sacrificing his own health to care for these animals. Dr. Martinez looked at Thomas with obvious admiration. Mr. Murphy, what you've done is one of the most selfless acts I've ever witnessed. I'd like to help you too, if you'll let me. Thomas was overwhelmed by the attention and offers of help. I don't need anything for myself. I just want to know that Bella and the puppies will be safe. They will be, Dr. Martinez assured him. But you deserve to be safe too. You've proven that you're capable of incredible love and responsibility. Now it's time to let others take care of you. Lisa had been working behind the scenes to arrange temporary housing for Thomas at a specialized facility that allowed residents to visit their pets during the transition period. She knew that separating Thomas from the dogs immediately would be traumatic for all of them. Thomas, What if I told you that you could stay in a warm place with regular meals, but still visit Bella and the puppies every day until they're settled in their new homes?" Lisa asked. Thomas considered the offer carefully. "You mean I wouldn't have to abandon them completely?" "That's exactly what I mean. You could be part of the process of finding them homes, and you could make sure they're placed with people who will love them as much as you do." For the first time in months, Thomas smiled. "If I can still be part of their lives, if I can make sure they're truly safe, then yes, I'll accept your help." The process of transitioning Thomas and the dogs from the alley to safety took place over the course of a week, with careful attention paid to minimizing stress for both Thomas and the animals. Dr. Martinez had arranged for the dogs to stay at her clinic temporarily while foster and permanent homes were finalized. Thomas moved into a transitional housing facility that specialized in helping homeless veterans reintegrate into stable housing. The facility had a compassionate pet policy that allowed Thomas to visit Bella and the puppies daily at Dr. Martinez's clinic. "I've never seen anything like the bond between Thomas and these dogs," Dr. Martinez told Lisa as they watched Thomas interact with the puppies during one of his visits. "They clearly see him as their protector and pack leader." The story of Thomas's sacrifice had begun to spread through the local community after Lisa shared it with a journalist friend who specialized in human interest stories. The response was overwhelming. Dozens of people called the rescue organization, offering to adopt the dogs, donate money for their care, or help Thomas in his transition off the streets. "I can't believe how many people want to help," Thomas said during one of his visits with the dogs. "I thought people would think I was crazy for choosing to live on the streets to protect some stray dogs." "What you did wasn't crazy," Lisa replied. "It was heroic. You put the needs of vulnerable creatures above your own comfort and safety. That's the definition of heroism." The first puppy to be placed was Hope, a female who went to a family with 2 young children who had been looking for a dog to grow up with their kids. Thomas was present for the adoption, and while it was emotional to see Hope leave, he was satisfied that she was going to a loving home. "She's going to have a good life," Thomas said, watching as Hope played with her new family. "That's all I ever wanted for them." Faith and Courage were adopted together by an elderly couple who had recently lost their own dog and wanted to provide a home for bonded siblings. Little Bit, the smallest of the litter, went to a single woman who worked from home and could provide constant companionship. The most challenging placement was Bella, who had formed such a strong bond with Thomas that she became anxious when separated from him for too long. Dr. Martinez worked with several potential adopters to find someone who would allow Thomas to maintain a relationship with Bella. The solution came from an unexpected source. Janet Rodriguez, Lisa's supervisor, had been following Thomas's story and had fallen in love with Bella during her visits to the clinic. "I'd like to adopt Bella," Janet told Thomas during one of his visits. "But I want you to know that you'll always be welcome to visit her. In fact, I'd like you to be part of her life permanently." Janet explained that she lived alone in a house with a large yard, and she would welcome Thomas as a regular visitor who could help care for Bella and maintain their special bond. "You mean I could still see her regularly?" Thomas asked, hardly daring to believe it. "I mean you could be her honorary co-parent," Janet replied with a smile. "Bella loves you, and that's not going to change just because she has a new home." The arrangement worked perfectly. Thomas visited Bella twice a week at Janet's house, taking her for walks, playing with her in the yard, and maintaining the relationship that had sustained both of them through months of hardship. "It's the best of both worlds," Thomas told Lisa. "Bella has a warm, safe home with someone who loves her, but I still get to be part of her life." Thomas's own transition to stable housing was progressing well. The transitional facility had connected him with veteran services, helping him access benefits he hadn't known he was eligible for, and providing counseling to address the trauma that had led to his homelessness. "I never thought I'd have a home again," Thomas confided to Lisa during one of their regular check-ins. "For 3 years, I felt like I had nothing to live for, but caring for Bella and her puppies gave me purpose. Again, and now I'm remembering what it feels like to hope for the future." 6 months after Thomas first introduced Lisa to his family in the alley, he stood in the living room of his own small apartment, looking at photographs of Bella and the puppies that covered one wall. Each photo told a story of the dog's new lives. Hope playing with her young human siblings, Faith and Courage exploring their new backyard, Little Bit curled up on her owner's lap while she worked. Thomas had successfully transitioned into permanent housing with the help of veterans services and was working part-time at Dr. Martinez's animal clinic, using his experience with homeless animals to help other rescue cases. The work gave him purpose and allowed him to stay connected to the animal rescue community that had helped him. "You have a gift with traumatized animals," Dr. Martinez told Thomas as they worked together to socialize a group of puppies that had been found abandoned. "They trust you in a way that's remarkable." Thomas's story had inspired the creation of a new program that provided temporary foster care for pets belonging to homeless individuals, allowing people to access shelter and services without having to abandon their animal companions. The program was funded by donations from people who had been moved by Thomas's sacrifice. "We're calling it the Thomas Murphy Program," Lisa explained to him. Your story showed us that the bond between homeless people and their pets is often one of the most important relationships in their lives. We want to honor that bond instead of forcing people to choose between their safety and their animals. Thomas was humbled by having a program named after him. I just did what anyone would do for family. Bella and her puppies were my responsibility. That's exactly the point, Lisa replied. Not everyone would have made the choice you made. You showed us what real love and commitment look like. Thomas had also become a spokesperson for homeless veterans, sharing his story at community events and advocating for better services and understanding. His message was simple but powerful. Homeless people were still human beings capable of love, sacrifice, and heroism. People see someone living on the streets and they make assumptions, Thomas would tell audiences. They assume we're lazy, or addicted, or mentally ill. But sometimes we're just people who've fallen on hard times and are doing the best we can. With what we have, the bond between Thomas and Bella remained strong. Their twice-weekly visits had become a highlight for both of them. And Janet often joked that she wasn't sure who was more excited when Thomas arrived, her or Bella. Bella lights up when she sees Thomas coming up the walkway. Janet told Lisa, it's clear that their relationship is something special that needs to be preserved. Thomas had also maintained connections with the families who had adopted the puppies. Receiving regular updates and photos of their progress, Hope had grown into a beautiful, confident dog who excelled at agility training. Faith and Courage had become therapy dogs, visiting nursing homes and hospitals to comfort patients. Little Bit had become a social media sensation, with her owner sharing daily photos of her adventures. It's amazing to see how well they've all turned out, Thomas said, looking through the latest photos on his phone. Each of them found exactly the right family. Dr. Martinez had documented Thomas's story in a book about animal rescue, highlighting the extraordinary lengths that people will go to protect animals in need. The book had become a bestseller, with proceeds going to fund animal rescue programs. For homeless individuals, Thomas's story challenges our assumptions about both homelessness and animal rescue, Dr. Martinez wrote. It shows us that love and compassion can flourish even in the most difficult circumstances, and that sometimes the people who appear to have the least to give are actually the ones with the most to offer. Thomas had also reconnected with his estranged daughter, who had been searching for him for years. Their relationship was slowly rebuilding, strengthened by her admiration for what he had done for Bella and the puppies. I always knew my father was a good man, she told Lisa, but learning about what he did for those dogs, how he sacrificed his own comfort to protect them, made me realize just how good he really is. 2 years after that cold November night when Thomas first revealed his secret to Lisa, he stood before a packed auditorium at the annual National Conference on Homelessness, preparing to deliver the keynote address about the intersection of animal welfare and homeless services. 2 years ago, I was living in an alley, refusing help because I had a family to protect, Thomas began, his voice strong and clear. That family happened to be a mother dog and her 4 puppies, but they were no less important to me than any human family would have been. Thomas's speech focused on the need for homeless services to recognize and accommodate the bonds between people and their animal companions. His story had inspired policy changes in dozens of cities, leading to the creation of pet-friendly shelters and programs that provided veterinary care for animals belonging to homeless individuals. When we force people to choose between their safety and their pets, we're asking them to abandon family members, Thomas explained to the audience. That's not a choice that anyone should have to make. After his speech, Thomas was approached by representatives from several national organizations who wanted to expand the Thomas Murphy program to other cities. The program had been so successful in Portland that it was being studied as a model for similar initiatives across the country. Your story has changed how we think about homelessness, one representative told Thomas. You've shown us that homeless individuals are capable of incredible love and sacrifice, and that their relationships with animals can be a source of strength and motivation for rebuilding their lives. Thomas returned to Portland, energized by the response to his story, and committed to continuing his advocacy work. He had been promoted to full-time status at Dr. Martinez's clinic, and was considering pursuing formal training as a veterinary technician. I never thought I'd have a career working with animals, Thomas told Lisa during one of their regular coffee meetings, but it turns out that my experience on the streets gave me insights that are valuable in animal rescue work. Lisa had also been transformed by her experience with Thomas. She had been promoted to director of the city's homeless outreach program and had implemented new protocols that took into account the complex relationships and responsibilities that kept people on the streets. Thomas taught me that we can't just offer services. We have to understand what people are protecting, what they're afraid of losing, and what they need to feel safe. Lisa explained to new outreach workers, sometimes the barrier to accepting help isn't stubbornness or mental illness, it's love. Thomas's relationship with Bella continued to flourish. Now 4 years old, Bella was a healthy, happy dog who divided her loyalty between Janet and Thomas. Their weekly visits had become a cherished routine that brought joy to all 3 of them. Bella saved my life as much as I saved hers, Thomas often said. She gave me a reason to keep going when I had given up on everything else. The 4 puppies, now adult dogs, had all thrived in their adoptive homes. Thomas received regular updates and photos, and he had become an honorary uncle to each of them. The families often brought the dogs to community events where Thomas was speaking, creating joyful reunions that never failed to move audiences. Seeing how well they've all turned out is the greatest reward I could ask for, Thomas said, watching Hope demonstrate her agility skills at a local dog show. Every sacrifice was worth it to see them living such happy, healthy lives. Thomas had also established a small fund to help other homeless individuals care for their pets, providing emergency veterinary care and supplies for animals whose owners couldn't afford proper care. The fund was supported by donations from people who had been inspired by his story. I want to make sure that no one else has to choose between their own safety and their pet's welfare, Thomas explained. Animals provide love, companionship, and purpose to people who have lost everything else. That relationship should be protected and supported, not seen as an obstacle to receiving help. As Thomas reflected on his journey from homeless veteran to national advocate, he was struck by how much his life had changed since that night when he first trusted Lisa with his secret. I thought my life was over when I ended up on the streets, Thomas said, but it turned out that my real life was just beginning. Bella and her puppies taught me that love is the most powerful force in the world, and that sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones who protect those who can't protect themselves. Thomas's story reminds us that heroism comes in many forms, that love transcends circumstances, and that sometimes the people who appear to need our help the most are actually the ones who have the most to teach us about sacrifice, commitment, and the true meaning of family. Most importantly, it shows us that everyone has something worth protecting, something that gives their life meaning and purpose, and that understanding what people are fighting for is the first step in truly helping them. If this story touched your heart and reminded you of the power of unconditional love and sacrifice, please subscribe to our channel. We share stories of hope, heroism, and the incredible ways that ordinary people do extraordinary things when they choose love over comfort. Hit that subscribe button and join our community of people who believe that every act of protection and care matters, and that sometimes the greatest love stories are between the most unlikely families.